Let me tell you about the end. Or rather, the rehearsal for it. I'm 93, Alara Vance. At this age, you attend more funerals than weddings. You become a student of finales. You see who weeps, who shows up in a pressed suit and empty eyes, who glances at their watch during the eulogy. You learn that death isn't just an ending. It's the ultimate audit. It reveals the true balance sheet of a life, of the love you gave versus the loyalty you earned. And I began to wonder, what was on my sheet? I have 2 children, Michael, my eldest, a businessman, always calculating angles, even in a hug, and Eleanor, my daughter, whose calls had grown as rare as honest politicians. I had grandchildren who knew me more from framed photos than from my lap. I had a beautiful, paid-for home full of art and antiques, and a nest egg that could hatch a very comfortable future for someone. I began to feel it, not sickness, but a chilling transparency. The way they'd look at the Chippendale desk not as a piece of history, but as a line item. The way Michael would mention estate planning with a casual, greedy flick in his eyes. The way Eleanor would sigh about the upkeep of the old place. I wasn't a mother to them anymore. I was a portfolio, a problem of assets and eventualities. So I decided to give them their eventuality a little early. I decided to fake my own death, not out of malice at first, out of a desperate, clawing curiosity. I wanted the truth. I wanted to see the raw, unfiltered content of their hearts when they thought the curtain had finally fallen. I called it Operation Final Balance. My accomplice was my oldest, dearest friend, Bernard, a retired theater director with a flair for the dramatic and a deep disdain for my children's character. It's morbid, Ilara, he'd said, but his eyes were sparkling. It's also the best role you'll ever play. The set was my own bedroom. The prop was me, under a sheet, perfectly still. The special effect was old Mrs. Gable from next door, who had a scream that could shatter glass and a loyalty bought with weekly jars of my lemon marmalade. The script was simple. Bernard would find me. Mrs. Gable would hear his distraught cry and come running. She would call 911. She would then, as prearranged, call my children. The call would go like this. Oh, it's terrible. Just terrible. Bernard found her. She's gone. Peaceful, but gone. We picked a Tuesday, a business day. We wanted the reaction to be raw, logistical, real. No time for staged sentiment. I took a mild sedative, prescribed, perfectly safe to slow my breathing to an imperceptible whisper. I lay down. Bernard fussed with the sheet. Break a leg, darling, he whispered. Or rather, don't. Then, he took a deep breath, opened the bedroom door, and unleashed a wail that would have made a Greek tragedian proud. Ilara, no, God, no, it began. I heard the frantic footsteps, Mrs. Gable's genuine, ear-splitting scream. She deserved an Oscar. The muffled call to 911. The hushed, tearful call to Michael. Then to Eleanor. I listened, a statue under, caught in my heart, thumping a slow, clandestine drum against my ribs. Bernard gave the performance of his life to the paramedics, the devastated friend, too choked up to speak. They were kind, professional. They confirmed the passing, a natural cause. The heart quietly stopped at 93 no nifo. A fuss they left. The house fell into a strange, official silence, the silence of a completed fact. And then I heard the cars. First, Eleanor, her tires screeched on the driveway. The front door flew open. I heard her heels on the hardwood, fast, clicking towards the bedroom. Then she stopped. I imagined her in the doorway, looking at the sheet-draped shape that was her mother. There was a beat of absolute quiet. Then, a sound, not a sob, a sigh. A long, deep exhalation that didn't sound like grief, it sounded like relief. Mom, she whispered. Her voice was dry, then practical. Bernard, thank you. Did she say anything about her wishes? My heart, that traitorous muscle, clenched under the sheet. Then Michael arrived. Larger, louder, his voice boomed in the hall, already tinged with the authority of the new patriarch. Ellie, where is she? Let me see. He barged into the room. I felt the air shift. He didn't approach the bed. He stopped. I could feel his gaze, not on me, but scanning the room, taking inventory, pecked the Persian rug, the chimney lamp, the painting over the mantel. Christ, he muttered. Okay, we need to call Hastings, the funeral home. Dad used them. And we need to secure the house. Secure the house, not mourn our mother. Secure the house. Elena's voice, closer now, hushed. Mike, her jewelry box, the sapphire set, and the documents, the will, the deeds, they should be in the study safe. I know the combination, Michael said, his voice tight with a strange excitement. She told me last year, just in case. She never did. He must have found it. My breath caught, and I forced it to stay slow, shallow, invisible. They thought I was a piece of furniture, a cleared plot of land ready for development. And then, Michael said the words that froze the blood in my veins. I brought the U-Hall. The words hung in the air of my deathbed room, more final than any doctor's pronouncement. They weren't here to grieve, they were here to loot. Under the sheath, my slow, sedative-induced breathing nearly hitched. I forced it steady. An actress must never break character. I heard Alina's sharp intake of breath, not in shock, but in pragmatic assessment. The Van Mike, isn't that a bit hasty? People will talk. What people? Michael snapped, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial rasp. Bernard, Mrs. Gable, will handle them. The will is straightforward. We're the heirs. We're just securing assets, preventing loss. This neighborhood, you know how it is. News of a death travels fast, and so do burglars. He was painting his greed as prudence, his desecration as duty. I listened to their footsteps recede from the bedroom, their voices moving down the hall toward my study, toward my safe. I heard the familiar work click of the dial, my safe, my things, my life, being opened like a takeout container. Bernard's voice, then, tremulous with a fury I knew was real. Children, please show some respect. Your mother isn't even cold. Bernard, thank you, but we need to handle affairs, Eleanor said, her tone dismissive, administrative. Why don't you go make some tea? You've had a shock. They were ejecting my best friend from the scene of their crime to make tea. I heard Bernard's hesitant footsteps retreat toward the kitchen, playing his part, biding his time. Then the sounds began, the distinct, heavy scrape of my Chippendale desk being dragged across the hardwood. Michael's grunt of effort. This is the big-ticket item. Get the door. The symphony of my dismantling had begun. Drawers opened and emptied, the clink of fine china being carelessly packed, the thud of rolled-up rugs. They worked with a brutal, efficient synergy. This wasn't grief. It was a warehouse clearance. I lay there, a silent witness to my own erasure. Every thump and rustle was a word in a new, brutal language I was learning, the language of being gone, the language of worth more dead. Then Eleanor's voice, closer again, right by the bedroom door. The jewelry is gone, Mike. What? The blue velvet box, the sapphires, the diamond brooch from grandmother. It's not in the safe. It's not on her dresser. A pause. I could picture Michael's calculating face. She must have hidden it. The old bird was getting paranoid. Check the closet, check the linen cupboard. Tear this place apart if you have to. The old bird, paranoia, the insults, now freed by my supposed death, flew like startled bats from the dark corners of their hearts. That was the audit. The balance sheet was clear. I was a liar, a paranoid old bird. My treasures were now their misplaced property. My home was their storage locker. My body was a logistical inconvenience. That's when the plan changed. It was no longer about witnessing the truth. It was about delivering the invoice. I listened as their search grew more frantic, less careful. I heard a vase shatter in the living room. Eleanor cursed. The U-Haul's loading ramp clanged against the threshold. They were sweating now, not with grief, but with the frantic labor of theft. It was time for the curtain call. I took one deep, silent breath that filled my lungs with a cold, clear purpose. I moved my hand just an inch under the sheet. Then I sat up that the sheet fell from me in a slow, dramatic cascade. I was facing the doorway. Eleanor had her back to me, rummaging through my lingerie drawer, of all places, presumably for hidden jewels. Mikkel was in the hall, his back bent under the weight of my grandmother's silver tea service. I didn't scream. I didn't shout. I simply said, in my clearest, steadiest voice, the voice that had read them bedtime stories and scolded them for tracking mud, looking for these. I held up my left hand. On it, worn over my knuckles, was the entire sapphire set. The ring, the bracelet, all of it. Eleanor froze. Her spine went rigid. She turned, slowly, as if moving through hardening cement. Her eyes met mine. The color drained from her face so completely she looked like a marble statue of horror. Michael, hearing my voice, stumbled. The silver service crashed to the floor with an apocalyptic clatter. He turned. He saw me, alive, sitting up, watching him. His mouth opened, but no sound came out, just a dry, ragged gasp. The world narrowed to that hallway, to the sound of priceless silver scattering and the silent scream in my children's eyes. You brought a U-Haul, Michael, I said, my voice terribly calm. How practical. I swung my legs over the side of the bed. I stood up. I was 93, but in that moment, I felt a towering, furious strength. I walked toward them. They shrank back, as if from a ghost. In a way, I was the ghost of the mother they thought they'd buried. Mom, Eleanor whispered. The word, a choked plea. Don't, I said, the single syllable cutting through the air like a blade. You don't get to call me that. Not here, not now. I walked past them, down the hall, toward the front door. Bernard emerged from the kitchen, a grim smile on his face. He held out my cordless phone. On the line, on speaker, was the family lawyer, Mr. Hastings. He had heard everything since the moment I sat up. Our second accomplice, Michael, Eleanor, came Hastings's dry, legal voice from the speaker. Your mother's will has a rather unique disloyalty clause, activated by sworn testimony from a witness to attempted malfeasance. Bernard is prepared to testify. The U-Haul, recorded by the newly installed security cameras, is rather compelling evidence. You are now disinherited, effective immediately. I stood at the open front door. The U-Haul was there, ramped down, a gaping mouth waiting to be fed. I looked at my children, their faces now masks of Shia, a gut-churning, tear not of a ghost, but of a living, breathing consequence of their own hearts. Take your truck, I said, my final line in this play I had written, directed, and starred in. And get off my property. You have 10 minutes before I call the police and report a burglary in progress. I am 93. I faked my death to see who would show up. My son brought a U-Haul, so I gave him the only thing he came for, a lifetime of regret and an empty truck to haul it away, and the funeral is over. The resurrection is complete. And I have never felt more alive.